Hello my lovely students, welcome to your own Aakash BYJU'S Neet channel.
Lovely students, welcome to
Duplication. Okay, hello everybody. Hi my lovely students, I am your Pankhuri ma'am and we are meeting today on your special request and demand to start the much scary, I agree, unit of ecology. हाँ, तो आज की क्लास में ना सारा डर निकलने वाला है with this unit of ecology. Today we will do a very important topic, one of the most weighted unit, one of the most important units in your class 12 syllabus. इस पूरी यूनिट में at least 12 to 15 questions if not more are asked. तो 12 to 15, मान लो 15 questions आए हैं तो 15 into 4 कर लो and now you can decide how important this unit is. The survey, the student survey which was conducted by Aakash BYJU'S Neet YouTube team, and it was lovely to have your responses. If you have not registered your responses, please do so. Yeah, you have a form, please join the Telegram channel. उसमें आपको जो क्लास लेनी है, जो टॉपिक करना है, whatever suggestions you have for us, please record your responses in that form. We are more than happy to have your feedback, to get your suggestions and make the required changes, tweak the process. तो उसमें आप लोगों ने ecology demand किया था and I'm very happy to start this unit because ये बहुत ज़्यादा marks carry करता है. Please settle down everybody. Make sure you don't have a lot of noise around you because ecology में समझना बहुत है. There's a lot to understand. मनन चिंतन करने वाला unit है ये. You don't have the boundaries. And I totally agree with all of you. When somebody tells me, yeah, ecology is not as charming as photosynthesis. Studying ecosystem is not as charming as studying about the cardiovascular system. I totally agree. Because यहाँ पे boundaries नहीं है. Okay, keep your pen and paper ready. I'm going to give you all the possible questions that can come from this unit in every chapter. Today we are going to do the first chapter, which is Organisms and Population. I can see your comments. Everybody has joined the class. Please share the session with all your friends. Have the competition. Have your friends in the class. Everybody can. They can't see me, it seems. Good evening. Anushka, मालूम नहीं है बेटा. Just look at the first page of your textbook. Hello Ananya, hello Piyush, hello Iffat, Aditi, Anushka, Jirapure, Raghavendra Kumar Verma. We are solving the problem. They can just see the thumbnail, it seems. Now they can see me? Acha, okay. Okay, I'm visible now. Somaya, Akhila, Jay Patel, Sharmila, good to have you. Falguni, Yashita, Gopal Kumar. Ifat session attend to kar lo yaar. Sahasra, that's a beautiful name. Speak in English, okay? As you order, I shall do the same. Sonu, Ritesh Kumar, Vikas, Tushar Patel, Shivam, Ben, good evening. Shweta, Sherin, Satish, Kaushi, hi. A lot of new people in the class. Lovely to have you today. Nikita Rajput, guys, NCERT, notebook, pen. I don't want a lot of notes, but I want you to note down the questions that I'm going to give you. Shafat, Puras Mahir, Vikas Singh, Vaishnavi, Deepu, Akhilesh, Samishta, Kalyan is coming regularly to the class. Jaya Patel, Ananya Agarwal, Vaishnavi, I've taken your name. All right, people. Anna June. Let's start the class now. Start karte hain. Good evening, Abhimanyu, Lokesh. Okay, now people, in today's class, what all are we going to study? Calm down and look at the table of contents. Why? Because every point is going to yield questions. मुझसे पढ़ो या कहीं से भी पढ़ो, make sure that in this chapter there is a probability of questions being asked from what are the various levels of ecology. Question number 1. Question number 2. What are the major abiotic factors? You're going to sit for your board exam as well. 3-mark question. What are the major abiotic factors that impact us? Okay. How do we respond to abiotic factors? What are the various adaptations? Why do we adapt? Why do we adapt to our environment? We are going to discuss that today. What is a population and how do you look at a population? How do you judge a particular population? Then what is population density? What is population growth? Yeah. What are the different growth models seen in a population? Very important question. ये boards का favorite question है examiner का. What is a life history variation? No clue about it. It is okay. What are the various population interactions? This is the most important topic of today's class. So please do not leave the class till the end. Population interaction से 2 MCQ आते ही आते हैं. 1 या 2 MCQ आना ही आना है. This is a short topic. Absolutely important topic. Okay, so please stick till the end of the class because I'm going to give you questions from population interactions. Before we proceed, remember that you want to have the entire competition with you, okay, to judge whether you are the best in the entire country or just among 100 students, 200 students. Your competition is with 15 lakh students. Get everybody into the class, share the session, like the session and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss even a single class, whether it is a class of strategies given by different teachers, because we are working day and night to make sure that you ace your exam. So you want to take the maximum benefit of this one-shot series and all your teachers who are working hard. So subscribe to the channel. Okay? Now, moving further, ecology है क्या? ये जो लॉजी वर्ड है ना, ये तुम बहुत पढ़ चुके हो. बायोलॉजी, टेक्नोलॉजी, एस्ट्रोलॉजी, there's so much of logy that comes in life. Logy simply means study. And eco here simply means the ecosystem. Alright? The truth of the hour, people. I can see that they have calmed down. Yeah. Faria, beta, this is the topic we are discussing today. Please come to the class on time. Yeah. Shiksha, hi. आपका तो नाम ही शिक्षा है. Aditi, okay. Yeah. So people, ecology is the study of our existence. What more can I say? Alright. ये board exam में paper में मत लिख के आना. Ecology is the study of existence. 0 number मिलेगा, बहुत बड़ा 0 मिलेगा. Please ऐसा मत करना. Okay, there are certain things I tell for you to get the emotion of the topic, emotion of the subject. Yeah. Existence का मतलब है at any given point of time, people listen to me carefully. I am not existing in an isolated system. I am not isolated. शायद पूरी दुनिया में कुछ भी isolated तरीके से present है ही नहीं, exist करता ही नहीं है. Okay, so I am always interacting with other organisms or called as the biotic factors of around me, around my existence. And I am also interacting with the abiotic environment around me. Abiotic बोले तो physical environment. Abiotic बोले तो non-living environment. And we don't realize, but actually we make a lot of changes in ourselves. We adapt, so to say, to this physical environment. If we don't adapt to the physical environment, we might perish. गर्मी में AC, सर्दी में sweater. That is for my healthy survival. And I told you in the chapter of reproduction in organisms, sexual reproduction in plants, the success of a species is survival, reproductive fitness, reproductive potential. Can the organism make more of its kind. Alright, so that is the purpose of adaptation. Now, in this chapter, we are going to study the very basic unit of existence, that is organism. मैं, okay? मेरे जैसे कई will make a population. So this pyramid that you see, ecological pyramid, is the organization of ecology. Organization or hierarchy of ecology. What is hierarchy, people? Basic to complex, basic to advanced. Question number 1. Whether it is your boards or NEET. जब मैं बोल रही हूँ question, it is important for both. ये बिल्कुल मत मानना कि कोई डिफरेंस है. अगर कोई डिफरेंस होगा, I'll tell you कि भाई ये बोर्ड्स में नहीं पूछते हैं, ये नीट में पूछते हैं. उसकी टेंशन लेने की जरूरत नहीं है. Alright? So the basic unit, when you start pondering over your existence, which you have to from today, if you want to really understand ecology and solve any kind of questions. क्योंकि इकोलॉजी वाली यूनिट में ऐसा तो है नहीं कि वो डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन पूछेगा व्हाट इज द नेम ऑफ दिस स्ट्रक्चर, व्हाट इज द नेम ऑफ दिस सबस्ट्रेट, इस साइकिल में क्या होता है, इस रिएक्शन में क्या होता है, ये कौन सा एंजाइम है, डाइजेस्टिव प्रोसेस ऐसा है, एक्सक्रीशन प्रोसेस ऐसा है, माइक्रोस्पोरोजेनेसिस ऐसा है. नो, देयर आर नो बाउंड्रीज टू दिस नॉलेज. सो यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस. जिसके पास मगिंग अप एबिलिटी है, solving ability hai, your abilities are also challenged in this unit. So you need to understand this chapter. Now, if you focus on your existence, so sabse pehle kya aata hai? Main. That main is the basic unit of ecology, which is organism. Organism level pe, मैं क्या पढ़ पाती हूँ? How am I adapting to my physical environment? How am I interacting with the similar organisms, with other humans as well as other species? Right? So physiological aspect of ecology comes into existence. What do I do in the body to adapt to my environment, to survive, to be fit? Then comes the population. The population ecology. ये सारे human population, dog population, plant population, how they respond to the environment. क्या ये evolve करेंगे या like Darwin says, there will be natural selection और ये evolve नहीं करेंगे, they will perish. They will not be selected by the nature. Okay. Then comes different populations in an area. Of course, different populations have to coexist. अपना अलग planet थोड़ी ना बनाओगे. बना सकते ही नहीं हो because there is interdependence. We can't live without the other species. Good or bad. Cockroach देखने में डर लगता है, but yes, we have to coexist with these species. So that is a community. When various communities are living in a particular physical environment, क्या ये पानी है, or is it a tree top, or is it my intestine? These are ecosystems. और इस ecosystem में ये organisms ना उसके characteristic होते हैं, because they have adapted themselves according to that physical environment. फिर आता है biome. Biome is a much larger geographical area with its own climate, people. With its own climate. Just listen, I'll give you the keywords in the later part. Is it a desert area? Is it a hilly area? All these are biomes. Based on वहाँ पे temperature कैसा है, बारिश कैसी होती है. Okay? And it will have the characteristic organisms. उसके बाद biosphere. वो part is अर्थ का जहां पर जिंदगी है, जहां पर लाइफ है, the livable part of this planet. Okay. Now folks, मोहम्मद फैजल शिद्दत से आप पढ़ भी लो तो पहुंच जाओगे वहां पे, जैसे बाकी स्टूडेंट्स हमारे पहुंचे हैं. यू विल ऑल्सो रीच योर कॉलेज अगर आप भी ये शिद्दत शेयर कर लो. ओके पीपल, नाउ quickly, now you pick up your pens. I have shared my emotion about ecology with you. We are fine-tuned. We are ready to study ecology. Organism क्या है? Question. Basic unit. Pens are running. My pen is running. Your pen is running. सीधी सी बात है. इसमें कोई भी मुश्किल चीज नहीं है. Naveen, please don't spam the chat window. I'll really appreciate that. Beyond appreciation will have to block you. Don't want to do that. I read your comments. उसके बाद population. अच्छा, population में ध्यान रखना, same species. Population is a group of same organisms. Human population, dog population, plant population, like I said. तो पॉपुलेशन का बेसिक फीचर कैसे आइडेंटिफाई करते हो? पॉपुलेशन सबके सब एक जैसे हैं, थोड़ी बहुत वेरिएशन तो है ही, हम सब एक दूसरे से डिफरेंट दिखते हैं, वो जेनेटिक्स में आ जाता है, बट ऑल इन ऑल आवर फिजियोलॉजिकल प्रोसेसेस, हमारे रहने का ढंग, हमारा बॉडी स्ट्रक्चर इज सिमिलर, इज सेम, तो वो होता है पॉपुलेशन. एंड वन वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट अबाउट पॉपुलेशन इज इंटरब्रीडिंग. सिर्फ एक पॉपुलेशन में ही ये पॉसिबल है. ह्यूमंस विल ब्रीड विद ह्यूमंस, प्लांट्स की आपस में होती है, मस्किटोज, वेरियस अदर इंसेक्ट्स, बर्ड्स. सो इट इज द इंटरब्रीडिंग इज विद इन अ पॉपुलेशन, सेम स्पीशीज. ओके, उसके बाद आते हैं कम्युनिटी. डिफरेंट पॉपुलेशंस कैसे इंटरेक्ट करती हैं, हाउ आर वेरियस microbes in the soil interacting with the plants. As simple as that. Then comes the ecosystem. बहुत सारी communities along with the physical environment of that area. क्या physical environment पानी में मैं रहती हूँ, क्या मैं plains में रहती हूँ, क्या मैं राजस्थान में जाके रहती हूँ, that is my physical environment or abiotic environment or the physico-chemical environment. उसके बाद biome. Biome is the regional unit where there is a certain climate. अब climate का मतलब क्या होता है? 9th क्लास 10th क्लास ज्योग्राफी में आपको पढ़ाते हैं टीचर्स, उसको भूलना नहीं है, वो पिछले जन्म की बात नहीं है, इसी जन्म में पढ़ा है. व्हाट इज द क्लाइमेट, कितनी बारिश होती है, कैसा टेम्परेचर एवरेज रहता है पूरा साल. दैट विल डिफाइन कि वहां पे कैसे जीव जंतु हैं, वहां पे कैसे ऑर्गेनिजम्स हैं. इज दैट क्लियर? पोलार बेयर पोलार एरियाज में है, राइट? कैक्टस डेजर्ट में है, राइट? मैंग्रोव ट्रीज स्वॉम्पी एरियाज में है, दैट वे. ओके, बायोस्फीयर मैंने आपको बता दिया, इट इज द इकोस्फीयर और द लिविंग पार्ट ऑफ द लिवेबल पार्ट ऑफ द प्लैनेट, जहां पर लाइफ है. नाउ व्हाट यू हैव इन फ्रंट ऑफ यू इज अ फ्रीक्वेंटली आस्क्ड क्वेश्चन. लाइक आई सेड, इकोलॉजी में बोर्ड्स में भी बहुत ज्यादा वेटेज है, 3 नंबर 5 नंबर के क्वेश्चंस आते हैं. दिस इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट डायग्राम टेकन फ्रॉम एनसीईआरटी. सब लोगों को दिखाई दे रहा है? बहुत ही अच्छे से दिखाई दे रहा है. देखो, डिपेंडिंग ऑन द टेम्परेचर एंड द प्रेसिपिटेशन, यानी कि रेनफॉल. अच्छा, एक बात याद रखना, प्रेसिपिटेशन में स्नोफॉल भी आ जाता है. स्नोफॉल प्लस द मीन एनुअल रेनफॉल. You can see the graph. On the x-axis you have the precipitation and on the y-axis you have the average mean annual temperature, mean annual precipitation. उस basis पे the major biomes of our planet are these. We have the desert, we have the grassland, tropical forest, temperate forest, coniferous and the Arctic and alpine tundra regions. बहुत ही important है. कैसे question पूछेगा? जो मैंने previous years में देखा है, he will ask you what this represents. और what this shaded area represents. A, B, C, D. करो अब मैच द फॉलोइंग और 4 नंबर लेकर जाओ. तो आप अपनी प्रिपरेशन में क्या ध्यान रख के जाओगे? पहली बात तो मैक्सिमम डाइवर्सिटी हमें मिलती है ट्रॉपिकल फॉरेस्ट्स में. ये हम नेक्स्ट चैप्टर में डिस्कस करेंगे कि ट्रॉपिकल फॉरेस्ट्स में मैक्सिमम डाइवर्सिटी क्यों मिलती है. लेकिन उसका एक हिंट आपको यहां पे मिल रहा है. सब लोग मेरे साथ ग्राफ को देखेंगे. अगर आप देखो तो मीन एनुअल रेनफॉल 350 टू 400 सेंटीमीटर के बीच में रहता है इन ट्रॉपिकल फॉरेस्ट्स. पानी भी है. और अगर मैं टेम्परेचर की बात करूं तो वो कुछ 20 टू 25 डिग्री सेल्सियस रहता है. इज दैट क्लियर? अब ये एवरेज टेम्परेचर है. इट इज द मीन टेम्परेचर. इट कैन गो अप टू 35, 38, 40 डिग्रीज ऑल्सो. आजकल तो बहुत ही गर्मी है. सो ऐसी टेम्परेचर और रेनफॉल कंडीशंस में इट इज वेरी कंड्यूसिव फॉर लाइफ फॉर्म्स टू स्टे हियर. लॉट ऑफ डाइवर्सिटी इज सीन. एवरी ऑर्गेनिज्म वांट्स टू लिव इन अ स्टेबल एनवायरनमेंट. अगर आप एक और चूज कर लेते हैं, लेट्स चूज आर्कटिक, द अदर एक्सट्रीम. हिमालयन रेंजेस में चले गए तुम, दुनिया छोड़ के, मैं तो वहीं रहूंगा पहाड़ों में. किसी गुफा में. So that is Arctic and Alpine tundra regions near the poles. Yeah? तो आप जरा वहां पे देखिए, there's nothing to mug up in this. ये देखो, if you look at the rainfall, it is very less. 80 to 100 सेंटीमीटर ऐसे रहता है. यहाँ पे फिर भी थोड़ा सा ज्यादा दिखा है. ओके, और टेम्परेचर तो 0 डिग्री इज द हाईएस्ट टेम्परेचर. 0 डिग्री इज द हाईएस्ट टेम्परेचर. और वैसे क्या रेंज करता है टेम्परेचर? इट इज इन -5 to -10 डिग्री सेल्सियस. तो यहां पे आपको बहुत कम स्पीशीज डाइवर्सिटी मिलती है. व्हाट आर द 2 थिंग्स doing this, causing this variation on the same planet? That is your temperature and precipitation. तो अब शुरुआत हो रही है इस कहानी की. This is just the starting, giving you an idea कि भाई ये जो फिजिकल एनवायरनमेंट दिखती नहीं है ना, सुबह उठ के हम नहीं याद रखते, ओके कल इतने सेंटीमीटर बारिश हुई थी, इतना डिग्री टेम्परेचर है, वहां पर इस ऑर्गेनिज्म को ये फर्क पड़ रहा होगा, या ये this is what is happening in different parts of the world, or this is what is happening around me. We just get up, oh my god, today it's very hot, I'll just switch on the AC. That's it. But these abiotic factors control the very existence of the organisms. Let's dig further into this. Yeah, so what do you see? Tropical rainforest, lot of canopy, lot of trees of different heights. There'll be herbs, there'll be shrubs, there'll be tallest trees, there'll be medium-sized trees, lot of species diversity. Deciduous forest में, because the conditions are not stable, कभी बहुत green होगा, कभी all the leaves will be gone. Okay? Desert, hardly any vegetation, and sea coast, different types of specific vegetation, जो कि swampy areas होते हैं. जैसे आपको यहाँ पे मैंग्रोव ट्रीज मिलेंगे. सेम वेरिएशन आपको एनिमल स्पीशीज में भी मिलेगी. नमस्ते अविक. अस्मत, ये चैप्टर कब खत्म होगा? जिस दिन आपका एग्जाम हो जाएगा उस दिन ये खत्म होगा. उससे पहले मुझे कोई आशा नहीं है कि ये खत्म होगा. जैसे वो पेपर लेगा ना एग्जामिनर, उस दिन सब खत्म हो जाएगा. इट विल बी अ न्यू लाइफ. और कोई सवाल? कितने अच्छे डाउट्स पूछते हो सुमित, थैंक यू. अच्छा, इसमें ना इस पूरी यूनिट में, इकोलॉजी में, ये मेरी भी टेंडेंसी थी, ओके, आई विल नॉट लाई अबाउट इट, कि हम डेफिनेशंस रट लेते. जब तक मैंने इकोलॉजी को समझा नहीं था ना, तो मेरे पास और कोई रास्ता नहीं था. मेरा यूनिट टेस्ट था स्कूल में, एंड आई हैड टू मग अप द डेफिनेशन. आई स्टिल रिमेंबर दैट वाज द मोस्ट anxiety, and that was the worst day in my learning process when I had to mug up ecology. I was in 12th class और मेरा unit test था, और उसमें I think first or second chapter, ecosystem and this chapter were in the syllabus. तो जब तुम you will make this turn, then only you will like ecology, otherwise you will not like this. So if you write the definitions here, I would rather say understand the definition. Okay. Now, what is a niche? Every alternate year, whether it was before Neet or after Neet, I have seen this question. Also very important for your board exams. इसका एक बहुत popular example teachers और textbooks देती हैं. They say habitat of an organism is the address. आपका एड्रेस क्या है? दैट इज वेयर यू लिव. बट द रोल और द प्रोफेशन, हु आर यू, हाउ डू यू वर्क, व्हाट डू यू डू, दैट इज नीश. अब मैं ना इसको थोड़ा सा सिंपल करने वाली हूं. जो आपके घर का एड्रेस है, लेट्स से यू लिव विद योर फैमिली, नॉट लेट्स से, यू डू लिव विद योर फैमिली, ओके. You have a sibling, a brother or a sister, okay? So address is the habitat, but niche is your own room. How much you fight for the things in your room? Yeah? कि मेरे रूम में तो मुझे, in your room you will have the biology books, you will have the NEET related books, you will be attending this class right now, but your sibling in their room has different kinds of books. They might have the guitar if they are a musician. You might have the sports shoes and the tennis racket if you're a sports person. So that specificity, who you actually are, is based on your habits. That is your niche in that house. तो जब वो लोग बोलते हैं रोल और प्रोफेशन, उसका मतलब होता है कि आपके पर्टिकुलर सेम हैबिटेट में, उसी घर में आपके पर्टिकुलर क्या हैबिट्स हैं. मे बी द रूम, योर रूम, द लाइट्स आर ऑन एट 2 AM because you like to study at night, and your brother or sister sleeps at 11 PM, 10 PM. Early to bed, early to rise. So in terms of ecology, it is how an organism utilizes the resources which are shared by everybody in that geographical area. How they utilize the resource, what is their role in that particular area, in that particular ecosystem. अच्छा, अब इन हैबिट्स का इकोलॉजी में क्या मतलब है? मेरी फूड हैबिट्स क्या है? रोटी, कपड़ा, मकान. ये तो मैंने अपने घर का एग्जाम्पल दिया. If we talk about animals living in a forest, what do they eat? When do they eat? Feeding patterns. दिन में, रात में, शाम में. Okay? And the reproductive habits. Or where do they go to hunt for their prey? All these form the niche. एक species में habitat will be same, but niche will not be same. Okay? So, is that clear? आगे चलते हैं. This is the idea of niche. It is one of the favorite question of the examiners. I'm sure it is clear to you. Habitat same है आपका और आपके भाई का. Niche different है. Alright? Okay. So, ecosystem is divided into biotic and abiotic factors. Let's start with abiotic factors. सबको पता है, जनरल नॉलेज है. टेम्परेचर, वाटर, लाइट, सॉइल. और इसको रटने की जरूरत नहीं है. मैंने आपको जब ये सीरीज लॉन्च हुई थी, इफ यू रिमेंबर दैट डे, पीपल हु वर देयर इन द लॉन्च, आई टोल्ड यू, बॉटनी जिनको मुश्किल लगती है, ओपन द विंडो, यू हैव टू स्पेंड टाइम, यू हैव टू स्पेंड एफर्ट फॉर 15 minutes. I asked for 15 minutes. Look at a tree. That is also a small ecosystem. Look around you and you will realize that these are the physical factors which are impacting you. Question: the most important and impactful abiotic factor for living organisms is temperature. हमारी सबसे ज्यादा सेंसिटिविटी टेम्परेचर की तरफ है. उसके बाद आ जाते हैं वाटर, लाइट एंड सॉइल. कुछ नया नहीं है. If you try to understand, you know all of this. You've studied human physiology and plant physiology. Now, temperature, why it is such a big impactful factor? Because the enzymes of living organisms. चलो बाकी organisms का ना सोचो. Just think about yourself. You've understood all the processes, all the metabolic processes that happen in your body. Enzymes are so sensitive to temperature. The kinetics of enzymes are affected by temperature. Hence, the metabolic activities and the entire physiology of the organism will change. But organisms are adapted to different temperature conditions. For example, some of the organism can survive 100 °C temperature also. You know of microorganisms which are found in thermal springs and the deep sea hydrothermal vents. You know organisms which will be found in 0 degrees, -5 degrees, -30 degrees within the snow. Now, based on the temperature tolerance of an organism, this is quite interesting. We have two types of organisms. One is uri and the other is steno. इसको याद कैसे रखना है? This is also an important question. आप पढ़ते हो stenosis. Stenosis का मतलब होता है narrowing. Yeah? It is the narrowing or constricting. So, stenothermal, thermal is temperature. यानी कि मेरी टेम्परेचर सहन करने की रेंज बहुत नैरो है. मेरी तो है सच में. Okay, but otherwise आप देखो human beings or birds, most of the birds and mammals are eurythermal. We are fine. We are gifted with this ability to tolerate a huge range of temperature. हमारे पास we have the tools and processes to adapt to a very cold temperature and a very hot temperature. That is called as eurythermal. Stenothermal. Plants. Most of the animals. Stenothermal. They cannot tolerate a wide range of temperature. Now, hold this thought. Hold this thought. That is why you have humans everywhere. God, so much everywhere. But plants, certain plants in certain geographical areas. The vegetation is different in different areas. कश्मीर में जाओगे different vegetation है, केरला में जाओगे different vegetation है. With me on this, can you relate that? Because those guys cannot tolerate, there are certain plants which cannot tolerate the temperature of Kashmir. There are certain animals which cannot tolerate the conditions of Rajasthan. So that is how the diversity works. But we are present everywhere because we are eurythermal. With me on this, next important factor is water. पानी. बहुत ही जरूरी. पी लो, बेहतर रहेगा. वाटर की केमिकल कॉम्पोजिशन, वाटर की सैलिनिटी, वाटर का पीएच विल इफेक्ट लिविंग ऑर्गेनिजम्स. मैं कहीं से भी उठा के पानी नहीं पी सकती. I have to be careful about the salinity, about the purity of water. Because so much of water. I'm made up of water. Yeah? Now think about, अपने से ध्यान हटाकर, let's not be selfish, think about the plants. भाई plants को अगर किसी एक mineral से toxic water आपने दे दिया, the plant will die. Think about organisms. Let's go a notch further. Think about organisms which are living in water. Aquatic organisms. The pH and the salinity, salt concentration of the water can actually kill the organism. Now, just like temperature, we have, उससे पहले मैं आपको बताती हूँ, what are the ranges of salinity? Parts per thousand. इन फ्रेश वाटर ऐसा क्यों है कि कुछ ऑर्गेनिज्म सिर्फ फ्रेश वाटर में है, कुछ ऑर्गेनिजम्स सीज में है और कुछ ऑर्गेनिजम्स सिर्फ ओशंस में है? बिकॉज द सैलिनिटी डिफर्स. या सो फ्रेश वाटर लेक जब आप देखते हो उसकी सैलिनिटी होती है 0 to 5 parts per thousand. दैट्स व्हाई यू कॉल इट फ्रेश वाटर. कोई सॉल्ट नहीं होता. उसके बाद सी में 30 to 35 ppt and oceans have more than 100 parts per thousand. So now organisms, just like eurythermal, we have euryhaline and stenohaline. For example, salmon fish is euryhaline. उसको कहीं भी डाल दो, it will be okay. But sharks on the other hand, steno means narrow range. अब sharks मिलता है oceans में. वो फ्रेश वाटर नहीं सह पाएगा. आपको सोचने की बात है, it is a game of endosmosis and exosmosis for a stenohaline organism. If an organism is found in sea water and you put it in fresh water, क्या हो जाएगा? What will happen? There will be osmosis. And that is very important. The fluid and the solute concentration in the body of an organism has to be maintained. Otherwise, it will burst or it will shrink. You've studied that, right? That is the idea of homeostasis as well. This is one of the components of homeostasis. Coming to light, let me remind you, you've studied photosynthesis in detail. Light is very, very important. Remember the photosynthetic active radiation. Acha, in a very dense diversity, इन अ वेरी डेंस स्पीशीज डाइवर्सिटी जो कि आपको ट्रॉपिकल रेन फॉरेस्ट में मिलती है, यू विल ऑब्जर्व दैट सर्टन प्लांट्स हैव ह्यूज फ्लैट लीव्स एंड सम प्लांट्स हैव स्मॉल लीव्स. ऐसा क्यों होता है? Because the plants which are overshadowed by huge trees in a tropical forest, the plants which are present at the base of the tall trees, they have made their leaf surfaces large to have enough sunlight. Yeah, so light will also cause different kinds of vegetation. Certain plants like skio, what do you call them? Halophytes. Sun-loving plants. Yeah? So, photosynthesis में then comes the quality of the light. If you remember from the chapter of photosynthesis, in the VIBGYOR component, maximum photosynthesis, if you remember action potential, action spectrum, absorption spectrum of photosynthesis, blue and red regions. So that is not the quantity of light, but the quality of light which is making a difference. Not only that, in the chapter of plant growth hormones, you have studied that flowering in plants is impacted by photoperiods. I'm talking about long day plants and short day plants. तो फ्लावरिंग होगी ही नहीं, लाइफ साइकिल कंप्लीट होगा ही नहीं इफ लाइट इज नॉट अवेलेबल इन एक्चुअल प्रिस्क्राइब्ड अमाउंट. अब एनिमल्स की बात करते हैं, नॉट अस, बट द फोरेजिंग पैटर्न्स. व्हाट इज फोरेजिंग? द पैटर्न ऑफ फीडिंग. खाना प्रोक्योर करना. एक एनिमल को दूर दूर तक जाना पड़ता है जस्ट टू गेट फूड. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड द फोरेजिंग पैटर्न. उठना, सोना, foraging pattern, breeding. When does the organism look out for the prey as well as the mate, breeding partner? That is sometimes impacted by the seasonal variation of light. जैसे ही सर्दियां आती हैं, as the winters approach, the birds can sense it because nights become longer and that is a clue for them to start migrating. So migratory patterns are impacted by the diurnal rhythm, raat or din. Is that clear? Yeah, keep looking at these lines in NCERT so that they make sense to you. So foraging, reproduction and migration, very important question, is impacted by light. Plants के बारे में आप पढ़ चुके हो. Then the spectral quality of light I've already told you. This is a previous year question कि plant kingdom में ये question आता था कि अगर एक water body है तो उसके surface पे कौन से plants हैं और उसके bottom पे कौन से plants हैं. पुराने ज़माने में this was a very important question, zonation of water bodies. ये मेरे टाइम पे तो बहुत ही फ्रीक्वेंटली आस्क्ड क्वेश्चन था एंड देन व्हेन आई टॉट माय स्टूडेंट्स दिस यूज्ड टू बी द स्टार क्वेश्चन ऑफ माय क्लास. आपके सिलेबस में ये नहीं है. ओके, देयर इज, कुछ लोगों ने पढ़ा होगा, देयर इज लिटरल जोन, देयर इज लिम्नेटिक जोन, देयर इज बेंथिक जोन, प्रोफंडल जोन. बेंथिक जोन सबसे ज्यादा डार्क एरिया है जहां पर फोटोसिंथेसिस निल होता है. You will not find photoautotrophs in that region. Very special organisms. आज तक people have not been able to discover कि actually benthic region of oceans में life कौन सी है. We are still discovering. It is that dark. Having said that, coming to the question, आपको surface पे हमेशा green algae मिलेगी और बेंथिक लोअर रीजन्स में आपको रेड एल्गी मिलेगी. ये क्वेश्चन तो प्लांट किंगडम का है, बट आई एम एस्टैब्लिशिंग अ रिलेशन हियर. लिसन टू दिस केयरफुली. ये एजर्शन रीजन क्वेश्चन हुआ करता था बिकॉज विबग्योर में यू हैव टू रियलाइज दैट लॉन्गर वेवलेंथ which is red will remain on the surface of the water and will not be able to penetrate. अब रेड एल्गी रेड को तो एब्जॉर्ब करेगी नहीं, तो ग्रीन एल्गी इज फाउंड ऑन द surface. And red algae will absorb the shorter wavelengths which will penetrate deeper. बन गई रैंक. अगर आप ये आंसर कर पाते हो तो ज्यादा लोग नहीं कर पाएंगे. Alright. Nazeem Ali, thank you for repeating the comment. Plant kingdom, diatoms and dinoflagellates when we revise. Cool people, let's go further. आज की क्लास में ecology में you cannot afford to miss even a minute of attention. There's a lot to understand. There's no mugging up. That can't happen. I just can't tell you. Please learn this. Alright people, comes the soil. The vegetation of an area, the plants growing in an area are dependent on how the soil is. Mitti. And we eat what comes in that mitti. So what are the important factors of soil? These are also called edific factors. Edific factors. From which rock, by which process the soil was formed, will decide what kind of minerals are present in the soil. Ab geography mein, I hated this topic in geography. The kinds of soil, clay soil, alluvial soil, this sandy soil, this soil, that soil. ये वहाँ पे मिलती है, ये इस region में मिलती है, उस region में मिलती है. All that is, आपको वो अब नहीं पढ़ना है. Don't worry at all. But that decides कि अगर ये minerals या nutrients present है soil में, the mineral component will decide the pH of the soil, the acidity or the alkalinity of the soil. And only the vegetation, the plants growing in that soil will grow according to this. दोबारा से वही बात आ जाती है कि it will not be a size that fits all. Only certain plants will be able to grow in a particular soil. And the quality of the soil, some of the edific factors, not all, are dependent on the weathering process. कौन सा rock है, कौन से minerals हैं, उसके अंदर कौन से microbes हैं जो organic nutrients को तोड़कर minerals दे रहे हैं soil को. What is the grain size? Because grain size will decide the water holding capacity of the soil. अगर ये soil water hold कर पा रही है बहुत ज़्यादा, percolation हो ही नहीं रही है, तो different kind of plants will be present. The soil is dry, it is not able to hold any water. Different kinds of plants will be present. Make sense to us? Yeah. So, what factors will decide the quality of the soil? Minerals, pH, percolation of water, and topography. Topography is आसपास कैसा environment है. Is it a hilly region? Is it a plain area? Is it a desert area? That is the topography. तो हर जगह मिट्टी अलग होगी. If you travel a lot, you can notice this. सम्राट यार मैं ना क्लास में चैट नहीं करने आती हूँ. I have to teach something very important which is going to mark 2 questions in your whenever you sit for the exam. I'll definitely take up the important, the relevant doubts will not go undone from my side. But फालतू बात करोगे ना तो it is not one of those classes. If it was a regular class and your exam was within 1 year from today, I would have हाल चाल पूछते, आराम से चाय वाय पीते, पूरा मैं आपको टाइम देती. But this is a marathon. This is for people who are going to make their destiny in a few months. I can't afford to just chit chat here. Yeah? I'll take up your doubts when I take up your doubts. Dhrutan, listen to the class carefully, people. You have to be attentive. As much as I want to take up all the doubts, pamper you guys and spend all the time on one chapter, the exam is right there on my door. Your future is right there. Make sense? Let's go further. I'll take up your doubts in a while. Let's just finish one topic. Yeah? अब हम इन abiotic factors को respond कैसे करते हैं? We have established, we have appreciated, today we have reminded ourselves together that, we are bound by a lot of physical factors which are impacting us. We have to respond to these abiotic factors in the best possible manner so that we survive happily. If I'm not in tune with my physical environment, I'm going to suffer. As simple as that. Yeah, and this is more true for lower organisms because their body is not as evolved as a human being. Yeah, so draw your attention to that also. Nikita, you don't have to learn that. Types of soil is not in your syllabus. There's much more, there are many more important things. The first kind is regulation. The first type of response is regulation. Listen to this carefully, a very important question. Regulation is wherein I am sure where I'm going. I am sure exactly what I have to do till my Neet 2022 exam, irrespective of the external environment. Irrespective of बाहर कुछ भी हो जाए, कोई कुछ भी कर रहा हो, पढ़ा रहा हो, जो भी books change हो रही हो, news आ रही हो, what I have to do till I sit for the exam, that is regulation. So these organisms maintain a constant internal environment irrespective of the external ambient temperature. Now, when I say this, a very important term is homeostasis. Homeo is same, stasis is stagnant. Okay, it is a state of equilibrium. This state of equilibrium requires special metabolic processes. आपने तो human physiology में पढ़ा ही है. That it takes a lot to maintain this state of equilibrium. There are two components of homeostasis. An organism has to maintain thermoregulation and osmoregulation. That is the solute and the solvent concentrations. I don't want to burst out with the irregular concentration of fluids. Swelling हो जाती है body में जिस तरह से. Bursting out is just to make you understand. And thermoregulation is temperature. So it is an expensive process to be there. Let's say, where do I want to go? I want to travel to somewhere very cold. मुझे बैंगलोर में बहुत गर्मी लग रही है. Let's say you are in the coldest region. Okay, you're in -10, -15 degrees. You've traveled. You're still able to maintain that 37, 98.6 Fahrenheit. उसके अलावा you say, oh my God, I have fever. You start feeling sick. That is an expensive process. Your body can do that. Okay? So that is regulation. Second is conformation. जैसे कि plants में होता है और बहुत सारे, mostly सारे animals में होता है. Birds और mammals regulate कर पाते हैं. Regulation is shown by birds and mammals. बाकी दुनिया में क्या हो रहा है? Conformation हो रहा है. What is conformation? I maintain the temperature and the osmoregulation according to the outside environment. Is that clear? This means that my presence cannot be anywhere. If I want to maintain an internal temperature of 30-35 degrees Celsius, I cannot go and as a plant, I cannot grow in the polar regions. I cannot go to Kashmir and grow. Okay? Because I can maintain, I can conform to that temperature at a given point of time. अगर बाहर थोड़ी बहुत variation होगी 2 degrees, 3 degrees, 4 degrees, I can deal with that. But more than that, I'll not be able to deal with it. So that is conformer. Organism's internal environment always relies on the external environment. Otherwise, I will perish. अगर external environment में बहुत ज़्यादा change आ गया, I will die. That is conformation. Now, these organisms don't have any special processes, don't have the mechanism of homeostasis. Is that clear? Now, आपकी NCERT एक बहुत ही beautiful example लेती है hummingbird and shrews. Why don't we find the concept that is explained with the help of these two examples, shrews and hummingbirds? The concept is why small animals are not found in polar regions, very cold regions. Because heat loss या heat retaining capacity is dependent on the surface area and volume ratio. If you look at the body of a shrew or hummingbird, these two examples, small animals, you will see that volume is very less and surface area is more. इस case में the heat loss is very high. It is as simple as आपके पास एक glass bowl है, Yeah, there's a huge bowl looking very pretty. But why do you need the bowl? For the empty space within it, for the volume. If you want to store something in that bowl, it is not due to the surface area. It is the volume. अब इनमें volume बहुत कम है, heat loss will be very very fast. They cannot retain the heat. That is why we don't find small animals. We find polar bear, huge animals with small extremities in polar regions. I'll come to the Ellen's rule in a while. Yeah. So comparing regulators and conformers. Conformers को ज़्यादा energy नहीं चाहिए. So they feed less often. हम लोग जो regulators हैं, we have to maintain the energy constantly to maintain that equilibrium. Okay. Must feed often. And regulators can survive everywhere. Conformers will survive only in certain areas. Make sense? Now what are partial regulators? जैसे squirrels होती हैं. Partial regulators will regulate only across some limited range of environmental conditions. कुछ time तक their graph will be like a regulator. Okay, but after a while they will become a conformer. उसके बाद वो बोलते हैं बस, now I can't adapt more. Now I can't maintain that constant environment. Now whatever the external environment is, I'll conform to that. So those are partial regulators which regulate their constant internal environment only up to a certain limit, after which they conform. Is that clear, people? Let's go further. One of the behaviors, okay, you can take it as a part of adaptation as well, is suspension of the activities. Let's say any organism which finds unfavorable conditions, okay, whether I'm a regulator or a conformer, regulate करने की मेरे पास tool है, I have that property, but it's very hot, I cannot take this, I don't want to stay in this hot environment, बहुत ज़्यादा गर्मी हो रही है. What do? I want a vacation to the mountains. So that is escaping in time. It is a temporary behavior. काम वाम छोड़ो, suspend everything. Let's escape this unfavorable environment. Is that clear, people? I can see your messages. I can see people saying hi to each other. Very good. Do that. Alright, so organisms are avoiding this stress. These are temporary behaviors. This is not something permanent. Regulation or conformation is my makeup. It is something permanent. But these are adaptive mechanisms. The first one is hibernation. बहुत ज़्यादा सर्दी है. It is called as winter sleep. Seen in polar bears, they go to sleep in winters. They eat a lot, yeah, they store a lot of food when the conditions are favorable. And they use all the energy during the winter sleep. Then comes the summer sleep, people, shown by fishes and snails. Very harsh summers. क्या तो मैं conform करूं और क्या regulate करूं? Bye bye. छुप जाना. Is that clear? जैसे when we had the COVID outbreak, the only choice we had was to escape as much as we can. You didn't want to conform to it. Okay? There was no regulation that could be done. So, till the conditions were unfavorable, what was told to us? Escape in time. घर में बंद हो जाओ. Isolate yourself. Don't come out. That is something happens in this. What did you do? आपने सारा खाना, सारी चीजें, you had the entire stock. Lot of storage happened. This is what these organisms do during summer sleep and winter sleep. Are you understanding? उसके बाद आता है diapause. Diapause is suspended development. There is no metabolic activity, there is nothing happening. Seen in zooplanktons. Yeah, seen in zooplanktons, very important question. A stage of suspended development. The body doesn't do anything. Nazim, what do you mean? Animals called what who show hibernation? What do you want to call those animals? Example, I can understand. What do you want to call them? Priyanka, what happened? कौन सी मुश्किल से बचाना है आपको, बताओ. Jayashri, yes, we have discussed that last year. Too far along. I'm still waiting for somebody who has good subject related doubts when it comes to ecology. Because doubts होने के लिए ना subject को समझना पड़ता है. Polar bear, Nazim. अच्छा, उसके बाद dormancy. कुछ ना पता हो, seed dormancy पता है. You have studied that how fungal spores, fungus, bacteria, they produce spores. और मैंने आपको बताया था ये sexual reproduction में. Spores are a method for the organism to wave off, to escape the harsh conditions. Yeah, and it also helps in dispersion. फैलने में भी help करता है. Yeah. So dormancy, whether it is seed dormancy or the spore formation, these are methods to escape in time from unfavorable conditions. These are all given highlighted in your NCERT. Migration is also a temporary escaping behavioral adaptation, yeah, which an organism shows to escape the unfavorable condition. Going away from stressful condition for a brief period. It is particularly seen in birds. The very famous example is Kyolado National Park in Rajasthan receives Siberian cranes every winter because Siberian cranes are escaping the winter. India तो है ही काफी, रशिया से काफी प्यार है इंडिया को. भाई देखो, डायापॉज में सेम ही है. मेटाबॉलिक एक्टिविटीज विल बी सस्पेंडेड इन बोथ. ऑर्गेनिजम्स डिफरेंट है. जू प्लैंक्टन में आपको डायापॉज मिलेगा. शौकत, व्हाट अ ब्यूटीफुल नेम. सस्पेंडेड डेवलपमेंट का मतलब बॉडी में कोई चेंजेस नहीं आ रहे, क्योंकि इन ऑर्डर फॉर द बॉडी टू डू इट्स एक्टिविटीज, मेटाबॉलिक प्रोसेसेस, ऑर्गेनिज्म नीड्स एनर्जी. तो वो एनर्जी नहीं खर्च करते हैं जू प्लैंक्टन्स. आदित्य, पढ़ लो यार, खुद पढ़ लो या फिर यहां पर इंतजार कर लो. निकिता, मिमिक्री बाद में आएगा व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट पॉपुलेशन. आदित्य, दोबारा कमेंट्स करके प्लीज डोंट स्पैम द चैट बॉक्स. ऑलराइट पीपल, लेट्स गो फर्दर. अच्छा, अब अडेप्टेशन होता क्या है? यूज दिस वर्ड अगेन एंड अगेन. लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ adaptation, a very important definition. I'll give you the keywords here. It is a morphological. Can you see what I'm writing, people? Physiological. Can you see what I'm writing here? Or behavioral attribute which helps the organism. I think ये definition आगे लिखी हुई है. To जिंदा रहना and reproduce. Adaptation नहीं होगी तो डार्विन ने जो बोला नेचुरल सिलेक्शन में हम हार जाएंगे. एक्चुअली नेचुरल सिलेक्शन उन अडेप्टेशंस को चूज करती है विच आर द बेस्ट. सर्वाइवल ऑफ द फिटेस्ट जब एवोल्यूशन में पढ़ोगे जुओलॉजी में, ये तब मुझे याद रखना कि what they meant by survival of fittest. Natural selection will choose the best adaptation, and in a course of time, those adaptation will be a part of the genetic makeup of that particular species. With me on this? नहीं समझ में आया? आ जाएगा. Let's go further. You'll understand. So, adaptation is morphological, physiological, and behavioral. Yeah, I change my behavior, I change the body structure, or I change the way my body functions. इन तीनों में से कुछ भी employ करके, the idea is to win the game, win the hard conditions. For example, a kangaroo rat. This is the example of a physiological adaptation. These examples are super important for your NEET MCQ. A kangaroo rat which lives in the desert of North America. पानी नहीं है उसके पास. तो वो क्या करता है? It starts conserving water. How? By producing metabolic water. Please write it in your textbook. Metabolic water is that it produces water by the oxidation of fatty acids, beta oxidation. फैट्स की ऑक्सीडेशन से बना हुआ पानी यानी कि मेटाबॉलिक प्रोसेस से बने हुए पानी से अपना काम चलाता है एंड इट डजंट लेट आउट वाटर इन द फॉर्म ऑफ यूरिन, इट प्रोड्यूसेस सॉलिड यूरिन. बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन. इट प्रोड्यूसेस सॉलिड यूरिन. उसके बाद लिजर्ड क्या करती है? दिस इज अ बिहेवियरल अडेप्टेशन. वो कहती है देखो मैं अपना स्ट्रक्चर नहीं चेंज करने वाली. डेजर्ट लिजर्ड की बात कर रही हूं जो बहुत हार्श टेम्परेचर में रहती है. डेजर्ट में क्या होता है? दिन में बहुत हाई टेम्परेचर होता है, रात को काफी लो टेम्परेचर होता है, सर्दी होती है. सो लिजर्ड सेज मैं अपनी मॉर्फोलॉजी एक्सटर्नल स्ट्रक्चर में कोई चेंज नहीं करूंगी. फिजियोलॉजी मेरे पास इतना काम नहीं होगा. आई चेंज माई बिहेवियर. शी स्मार्ट. व्हाट शी डज इज दिन में जब टेम्परेचर बहुत ज्यादा हाई है इट विल स्टिल बी आउट इन द सन एंड रात को जब सर्दी होती है इट burrows into the soil. Is that clear? तो दिन में it will find a shadow, थोड़ी कम धूप वाला एरिया, और अगर इसको रात को सर्दी लग रही है it will go deep into the ground. Burrowing करके it will go deep into the ground. Plants में adaptations कैसी होती हैं? Plants भी morphological आप पढ़ चुके हैं और physiological adaptation करते हैं. Let's talk about cactus, opuntia. You have studied in the chapter of photosynthesis कि जो desert में रहने वाले plants होते हैं, in order to conserve water, first of all morphologically their leaves are modified into spines. Morphology के chapter में you have studied that the stem of opuntia is in the form of a phylloclade. That is, stem stores food and performs the function of photosynthesis. Leaves are modified into spines to ease out transpiration. Physiologically, it undergoes CAM pathway. People who have done photosynthesis thoroughly, crescellation acid metabolism, sunken stomata, anatomical modification. What is sunken stomata? Stomata are not present on the epidermis. अगर surface पे stomata present होंगे तो there will be a lot of loss of water. Stomata are in the inner layers of the plant. So sunken stomata. Make sense? These are all very good effort. यही तो पूछेगा नीट में. जो मैं बता रही हूं वो नहीं पूछेंगे. What you're writing, they'll ask that. Very good. Let's go further. Now comes one of the most important morphological adaptation. There are many rules. Okay, over the period of evolution, organisms have realized that we have to do कुछ ना कुछ करना पड़ेगा, whether it is morphological, behavioral or physiological adaptation in order to survive in the environment. And some of these adaptations have become genetic. They've been passed on from generation to generation. There are many rules. There's Bergman's rule, there's Ellen's rule. You don't have to do all those rules. Please don't waste your time. Just remember Ellen's rule, which is given in your NCERT. Ellen's rule says that organisms, in order to retain heat in very cold polar regions, have small extremities. Whenever you travel in extreme सर्दी, सबसे ज़्यादा सर्दी कहाँ लगती है? Here. frostbite. Yeah, you suddenly feel you have to wear a cap. You suddenly feel a lot colder in the extremities. So he said that in order to ease out heat loss ना हो, इसलिए जो organisms polar regions में रहते हैं, they are very cute, like Arctic fox and Arctic hare. They have shorter limbs and smaller ears to minimize the heat loss. Similarly, in plants you've studied in plant kingdom, needle-like leaves, coniferous trees, reduce transpiration and heat loss, क्योंकि वहां पे भी पानी नहीं है, पानी जमा हुआ है in the form of snow. Then adaptation for very cold aquatic seals. What do they do? In order to retain the heat in their body, in absolutely minus of temperatures, seals have blubber, which is a lot of accumulation of fat. Camel में भी होता है, yeah? Camel में भी होता है, the hump of the camel. But here in seals, the blubber of fat, the blubber is to act as an insulator, people. This blubber will not let the heat go out of the body, and these cute organisms will be able to survive. Yeah. Then let's look at a modification, let's look at an adaptation that we do at higher altitude. There's short-term adaptation and there's long-term adaptation. When you travel to the mountains, very high in the mountains, let's say Leh Ladakh. Nazim, I'm not going to talk about phylloclade. You can watch the class on morphology, stem modifications on this channel. If you open the playlist, I've taken a class on stem modifications. Watch that. Because वो वहीं समझ में आएगा. Even if I tell you now, everybody will get disturbed. Yeah. Alright, people. Nikita, that is correct. Euphobia as well. Yes. I can see all your doubts. Now, जब हम ऊपर जाते हैं, if you have traveled, if you have noticed this, the body tries to acclimatize itself to very high altitude, because at very high altitude, the atmospheric pressure is low. Okay, so the first acclimatization that happens, होता है ना nausea, vomiting, mountain sickness जिसको बोलते हैं, that is your body adapting to this change. So the body, what it does is it increases the breathing rate and it reduces the affinity of hemoglobin to the oxygen. Once that adaptation is done, then you will not have those symptoms anymore. If you start living in the mountains, long-term adaptation is कि आपकी body permanently RBC's production बढ़ा देगी. इसीलिए people living in the mountains have those red cheeks, have that red hue on the cheeks. Their blood has more RBCs as compared to people living in the plains. So these are short-term and long-term adaptation. Physiological adaptation हो गई. So we have discussed why we have discussed the various kinds of adaptation, to understand that adaptation can happen at various levels in order to survive the ever-changing environment. Now comes the aspect of population. Till now we studied ecology at the organism level. और जैसा कि मैंने आपको कहा था, when I consider ecology only at the organism level, point number one, that is not truth. Because we are not existing as only as individuals. Yeah, we are existing as population. So a better way to understand ecology, and especially understand how evolution takes place, what is the genetics of a population, is to study ecology at the population level. क्योंकि जब natural selection होगी तो वो एक organism के level पर नहीं होगी, it will happen at the level of a population. क्या इस population में useful adaptations inherit हुई है या नहीं हुई है? So population genetics is extremely important to understand evolution of organisms. Is that clear? Dark night, you're from Kashmir? I love that place. So want to travel there. अगर मैं वहां से आप लोगों से ऐसे लाइव मिल पाती तो अब तक मैं वहां होती. Nikita, that also happens during acclimatization. और उस टाइम पे all the systems of the body, digestive system है, nervous system है, all are involved. So that is one of the symptoms. नजीम यार सुनते नहीं हो ना आप, लेट सुनते हो ना बात. सुनो, थोड़ा सा ध्यान से सुनो. सिर्फ कानों से नहीं सुना जाता है, सुनने के लिए दिमाग भी. चलो अब आते हैं पॉपुलेशन लेवल पर. What is a population? I've already defined it for you. Who can tell me? I've seen all the messages in the chat box. मजा नहीं आ रहा है. ऐसा किसी को देखकर नहीं लग रहा है that we are really into ecology. हमें समझ में आ रहा है. What is one keyword that you can give me for population if you have to define population? Thank you, Shubhra. God bless you. The organisms of the same species, very important, who interbreed with one another and share the same resources in a particular geographical area. Makes sense? Thank you, Akhilesh. Bikash, awesome. Hema, इंडिविजुअल्स ऑफ सेम स्पीशीज कहना बहुत जरूरी है. One disclaimer given in your NCERT is that when we use the term interbreeding, usually it is for sexual reproduction, but here we are also talking about asexual reproduction. There can be a bacterial population as well. Okay? Now when you study a population, let's say you grow up to become an ecologist, okay, and you were sent to Bangalore. Study the population of humans. चलो humans ही ले लेते हैं. I was thinking about plants, but ठीक है, humans ले लेते हैं. So what all attributes you will study in a population to report back to where you come from? In order to judge the health of a population, whether it is surviving properly, how is it evolving, how is the reproductive capacity, this population is healthy in this geographical area, you've come to Bangalore, in this particular climate, how is it interacting with the parasites, pathogens, diseases को कैसे respond कर रहा है, competition को कैसे respond कर रहा है. You get to know with the help of these attributes or parameters of a population, which are birth rate, death rate, sex ratio and age pyramids. Well, sex ratio and age pyramids tell you a little more than the factors that I mentioned. Sex ratio से तो आपको society के बारे में पता लगता है, the moral and the emotional and the educational issues. Okay, we'll discuss that. Now people, birth rate is very easy. Existing population में कितने नए लोग ऐड कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे लोग, that is the birth rate. Initial population is important, and because I said rate, per capita birth, the factor of time, that time period, let's say you're studying the population attributes for a time period of 1 year. So you will see in that 1 year how many births happened in this existing population. Similarly, the death rate. Sex ratio is number of males and females. Now that addresses other issues of the society. If I talk about humans, I am talking about humans, sex ratio. Yeah. Now, age pyramid, very, very important question for your upcoming board and NEET exam. Raghvendra beta, ये topic ना, I would suggest go and watch the session of reproduction in organisms which I took last week. उसमें मैंने ये बात की है. अगर आप एक क्लास, एक चैप्टर मिस करके दूसरे चैप्टर में आओगे तो कुछ भी क्लियर नहीं होगा. अनन्या, देखना, आप दोबारा क्लास देखना, you will understand. Vanshika, I'll clear your doubt. I've seen it. Nazim, I don't know what you're talking about. समझ ही नहीं आया क्वेश्चन. Mature industrial what? मैम प्लीज टेल अबाउट mature industrial. समझ ही नहीं आया क्या बोल रहे हो. All right people. Okay. अब हम एज पिरामिड्स की बात करते हैं. शांति से समझना, यू माइट हैव टू ड्रॉ दिस एज पिरामिड इन योर बोर्ड एग्जाम. Okay, what are the questions that are asked? In any given population that you're studying, you came to Bangalore, you're an ecologist, you are studying the population over a given period of time. The graphical representation of the percent individuals of an age group gives you a pyramid. अब अगर इंडिया की पॉपुलेशन की बात करें, this is the pyramid which is expanding population. नाम तो खराब है ही हमारा. The base of the pyramid is the pre-reproductive age. यानी कि यंग लोग, बच्चे जो अभी रिप्रोडक्शन में इन्वॉल्व नहीं है, who are not giving birth to new ones. If in a population the young people are more, you have to create more opportunities for them, and they are going to give birth to more babies than the people who are already giving birth, because they are more than the reproductive individuals, and this is the old people or the post reproductive people. पोस्ट रिप्रोडक्टिव पीपल जिस पॉपुलेशन में कम होते हैं, यानी कि डेथ कम हो रही है और बर्थ ज्यादा हो रहा है, यहाँ पर ना ही सिर्फ रिप्रोडक्टिव लोग जन्म दे रहे हैं, बट प्री रिप्रोडक्टिव पीपल आर ऑल्सो गोइंग टू गिव बर्थ एंड दे आर इन मैक्सिमम परसेंटेज. हेंस दिस पॉपुलेशन इज गोइंग टू एक्सपैंड एंड दिस इज अ ट्रायंगुलर pyramid. The shape of the pyramid is important. He'll just give you the diagram and he'll ask you whether it's an expanding population or it is a reducing population. Coming to stable population, bell-shaped graph. Here you will see कि मामला सही है. Stable मतलब जितने नंबर थे उतने ही नए प्रोड्यूस होंगे. So pre-reproductive is equal to reproductive population. यानी कि when these reproductive population die, they will be replaced by equal number of individuals. Make sense? Another extreme is reducing population or the urn-shaped graphical urn-shaped pyramid. Very, very important question, definite question. यहाँ पर pre-reproductive बहुत कम है. Okay? Young people are very less. This is the best state to be in stable population. Many developed countries are. So here, pre-reproductive are less, reproductive are more. These reproductive people will enter the post-reproductive age group and die. But उनकी जो replacement है, वो कम individuals से हो रही है. Because pre-reproductive या young लोग कम थे. Now that is a reducing population. Ideally, हमें एक या दो generations में for some time we should be in this phase and then only we'll recover from the problem of extra population, overpopulation. Extremely important topic. I hope you people are doing good to yourself and writing. The next attribute as an ecologist. Nikita came to Bangalore. She's an ecologist. She's like, I want to study this population. I have to report back these attributes. Why is she studying that? I already told you. Alright people. Now what is population density? अगर आप लोग metro cities में रहते हो, then this word keeps coming to you. अरे Bangalore का density, population density has increased a lot in the last 10-20 years. I hear that a lot. Or you talk about Mumbai, or you talk about Delhi, talk about Calcutta. In a given geographical area, the number of organisms of a species is the population density. आसान शब्दों में it is the population size. Okay, represented by n. when you're studying that population, उसकी डेंसिटी अगर बढ़ती है या कम होती है, that gives you a message. For example, when the virus hit, when coronavirus hit and deaths happened in such huge numbers, it reduced population density in certain areas. So it tells you that the population that you're studying, is it able to win the competition with another species? Is it able to fight the impact of a predator? थोड़ा सा ह्यूमन से बाहर जाकर भी देखो. इस जंगल में एक नया शेर आया, नया प्रेडिटर आया. Are deers, are herbivores in that forest able to fight this newly introduced predator? Effect of a pesticide application. आपने एक pesticide in agriculture use किया है. How has it impacted the population? Has it decreased the population density of the good crop? Has it decreased the population density of the pest that you were trying to control? Okay? Now, population density को measure करने का, किसी भी एरिया में population के size को measure करने का तरीका absolute भी हो सकता है और relative भी हो सकता है. Absolute is कि आप बैठकर एक organism को गिनो. इस एरिया में निकिता आई यहाँ पे 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not possible. Not in all the cases. Depends on the geographical area. बहुत huge area में कैसे count करोगे? या sometimes आप count कर ही नहीं सकते. शेर के पीछे नहीं भागोगे आप count करने के लिए. That way. Okay? So now there's one more discrepancy that happens. Sometimes the population size is not just about the number. A classic example given in your NCERT textbook is कि भाई एक weed है, parthenium है, carrot grass है, वो तो बहुत जल्दी grow करती है, invasive है, you go to an area और वहाँ पर इतनी सारी, I think they've given the number 200 carrot grass grow है और एक banyan tree है अकेला. अब आपको पता है banyan tree is a huge tree. अपने आप में एक ecosystem है वो तो. Providing habitat to such large organisms. तो इस केस में आप ये नहीं कहोगे कि population density carrot grass की ज्यादा है. What you will notice is you will measure the biomass. मैम biomass क्या होता है? इससे पहले कि मैं बोलूं सवाल आ जाएगा. Biomass मतलब the total organic matter formed by the organism. The percent organic matter. इस केस में आप ये देख रहे हो कि इसे एक banyan tree की contribution organic matter में कितनी है और living matter में. Biomass is simply at this point of time understand living matter. जिंदा matter कितना है वो banyan tree का ज्यादा है. So you don't say that carrot grass is more in population density. फिर relative density क्या होती है? कुछ लोग हैं जो वेट नहीं कर रहे हैं कि मैं टॉपिक पर पहुंचूं. इट विल बी बेटर फॉर यू टू वेट. रिलेटिव का मतलब होता है दैट यू काउंट द नंबर ऑफ ऑर्गेनिजम्स ऑफ अ स्पीशीज इन रिलेशन टू द टोटल नंबर ऑफ ऑर्गेनिजम्स. ये बेटर मेथड है. रिलेटिव डेंसिटीज आर बेटर. सो निकिता क्या करेगी? शी विल से कि इस पूरे जियोग्राफिकल एरिया में टोटल ऑर्गेनिजम्स, प्लांट्स, इंसेक्ट्स, डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ एनिमल्स इतने हैं, लेकिन उसमें भी इस ऑर्गेनिज्म की, इस प्लांट का, इस इंसेक्ट का नंबर ज्यादा है. दैट मीन्स कुछ ना कुछ ऐसा हो रहा है कि दिस ऑर्गेनिज्म इज सुपीरियर, इज एबल टू अडेप्ट बेटर, is responding to the environmental conditions better as compared to other organisms. कुछ तो गड़बड़ है. So measuring the relative density takes you to that गड़बड़. Make sense? Yeah. Now population density will be affected by all these factors. आंखें बड़ी करके देखो, what are the factors? Natality, mortality, immigration, emigration. बहुत easy चीज, very easy. नेटैलिटी, कितने बर्थ हुए. अगर बर्थ ज्यादा होंगे तो पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी बढ़ जाएगी, पॉपुलेशन साइज बढ़ जाएगा. नंबर ऑफ डेथ्स, मोर्टैलिटी. दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, very very important. Birth minus death, they will really impact the population size. उसके बाद immigration means बाहर से कितने individuals आए और emigration is कितने छोड़ कर गए. They usually in a healthy population, the factors of immigration and emigration do not really impact. But in special cases, immigration and emigration becomes very important factors. The effect of natality and immigration is additive to a population density. That is, NT plus 1 is population at time when you are measuring it. This is the initial population which was present. जब निकिता उस area में आई, उस particular area of Bangalore में आई to study the population, जो already present था is NT. What she is measuring is NT plus 1. So she is going to keep adding, रहेगी वहाँ पे आराम से, and she is going to keep adding the B plus I, immigration and birth rate. Then she is going to subtract how many people died and how many people left. Is that clear? Yeah. Now people, this becomes the formula, final formula of this density, population density is NT plus 1. NT is your initial density, additive factors B plus I, and you subtract the death and emigration. इसमें से जो question आता है वो ये है. I want you to take a moment. And look at what is written here. Should I? Yeah, they can see. It's okay. Let me be out of the frame. People, what is written here? Those who are writing the notes, this is super for you. This is a rank booster question, very very important. Population density कब increase होगी? अगर ये वाला factor increase होगा. Easy है, just write it down because ये questions बहुत आए हैं. Population density में कब change नहीं आएगा? जब ये दोनों equal होंगे. पैदा होना, मरना, as well as leaving and coming, both are same. Is that clear? और पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी डिक्रीज हो जाएगी एक एरिया की अगर डेथ और एमिग्रेशन ज्यादा हो रही है. ऐसा होता है. द वायरस हैज डन दिस. लोग छोड़कर भी गए हैं और डेथ्स भी ज्यादा हुई हैं. अच्छा, इमिग्रेशन एमिग्रेशन ना दो केसेस में मैटर करता है. इमिग्रेशन मैटर करेगा जब एक नई जगह है जहां पर कोई नहीं रहता, तो वहां बर्थ डेथ का फैक्टर इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं होगा. वहां पे नए ऑर्गेनिजम्स के आने का फैक्टर होगा. मान लो एक नया आइलैंड लिया है. किसने लिया है? डार्क नाइट ने. या डार्क नाइट सेड, यू नो व्हाट, आई हैव अ न्यू हैबिटेट, आई हैव अ न्यू आइलैंड, ओके, आई हैव अ न्यू प्लेस समवेयर. एनीबडी इज इन्वाइटेड, एवरीबडी इज इन्वाइटेड टू कम एंड लिव हियर. तो वहां अभी बर्थ डेथ का फैक्टर नहीं है. पीपल विल कम इन टू दैट एरिया. दैट इज इमिग्रेशन. और लेट्स से कोई एक ऐसा एरिया है जो रहने लायक नहीं है, या लेट्स से हाँ महक लिखा है शायद यहाँ पे. शशांक सेज, यार मुझे नहीं रहना है यहाँ पे. आई डोंट वांट टू लिव इन लेट्स से दिल्ली. So he leaves that city and goes somewhere else. That is emigration. Is that clear? Now, based on what changes happen in the population density, a population will show different types of growth models. Okay? So what are the different types of population growths that happen? One is exponential growth model. As the name suggests, यहाँ पर growth होती रहती है. The number of organisms, the population size keeps increasing. और ऐसा तभी हो सकता है if food and space, two major resources, जिंदा रहने के लिए खाना and space to live are unlimited. This is also called as geometric growth. ये झूठ है. In the real picture, in nature, or it cannot go on forever is what I can say. लेकिन हाँ, exponential growth can be seen in a short amount of time, especially for lower organisms, small-sized organisms, which have a very good reproductive potential. Talk about the bacteria growing in a culture medium. For some time, these bacteria, सोचो यार वो कितनी जल्दी divide करते हैं. They will reproduce, they will divide and increase in number at an exponential rate. Or the insects in breeding season, भर जाता है घर. Yeah, sometimes it depends on the species that you're studying. So exponential growth model, ऐसा assume किया जाता है कि for some time the food and the space, the resources are unlimited. But in the long term, if you observe nature, unlimited resources ऐसा नहीं हो पाता है. In this case, it is assumed that the organism in question reaches its maximum biotic potential. The potential to produce as many organisms as it can. So that time, the change in population density, Nikita will calculate dn by dt is the change. She will calculate birth rate minus death rate into the initial population density. मैंने आपको बोला था B minus D is very important. Yeah, B minus D is actually represented by R. And R is very important. R is different for different organisms, also called as the intrinsic rate of increase. Okay, क्योंकि birth or death is a natural phenomenon. Number of births and number of deaths depends on the organism in the question. And what you get, if you plot a graph for exponential growth or geometric growth, you get a J-shaped curve, which is the most commonly asked question from this topic. Extremely important. A J-shaped curve, not S-shaped curve. Shashank, update yourself. Yeah. So dn by dt is Rn, and if you integrate, it is N0 ERT. That is your base of natural log. Now, having said this, this is not true. इस केस में भी वो जो पर्टिकुलर बैक्टीरिया है या जो पर्टिकुलर इंसेक्ट है वो सडनली डिप कर जाएगा. आपको सडनली दिखेगा कि वो इंसेक्ट अब आपको दिख ही नहीं रहा है जिसने परेशान किया हुआ था आपकी लोकेलिटी में. Lot of cockroach, lot of mosquitoes. Yeah, because the resources will not be unlimited. And we come to the concept of carrying capacity. In nature, wherever you are living, whatever ecosystem you have, we are constantly exploiting the resources, and so are other organisms. These resources, if I talk about food, space, water, everything is in a limit, after which the population size will not increase. I repeat, after which, the limit after which the population size will not increase is my carrying capacity. नाम में ही मीनिंग है, राइट? अच्छा, इस कैरिंग कैपेसिटी के बाद जब निकिता स्टडी करेगी पॉपुलेशन, शी विल रियलाइज कि कुछ भी हो जाए, देयर इज नो इंक्रीज, बिकॉज द नेचर कुड सस्टेन only those amount of individuals, and then what happens is either a lot of imbalance, diseases, pandemics, catastrophic situations, floods, seasonal variations. The nature, you will see the nature will get disturbed, and people will start, by people I don't mean human beings, this is true for any species, any population, death will start happening. Extra remove kar diya jayega, nature can't help it. That is called as the carrying capacity, denoted by K, and it is extremely important in the true growth model which we see in our existence. It is the logistic growth model. Logic है इस population growth में. तो logic से याद रखना, मेरी ये बात याद रखना कि logically logistic growth model works. It is an S-shaped curve, sigmoid curve, and here you will reach stationary phase eventually, and this will be an asymptote condition. Graphically, you will see an asymptote condition where you do not see any change in the population. That is when the population density is equal to the carrying capacity. The change in population in this case has an important factor of K, that is the carrying capacity, and this is the formula that I want you to note down. It is also called as Verhelst Pearl logistic growth. N in this case is population density, R is intrinsic rate of natural increase, which is again B minus D. I told you. Make sense to us? Yeah. Acha, isme na phases are very important to understand. So when an organism is introduced into a habitat, वो पहले उसको समझता है, एक्लिमेटाइज करता है, रिसोर्सेज को बेस्ट वे में पॉसिबल करना सीखता है. सो इनिशियली आई हैव अ स्लो फेज, एज सिंपल एज दैट. आप किसी नए सिटी में जाते हो, you travel and go to a new city, you start living there, you take some time to be out, understand what are the different localities, how can I go, where is the closest grocery store, where is the nearest hospital, where is the nearest restaurant. Then you get used to it. Yeah, so that slowing phase initially is the lag phase, जब population इतनी तेजी से नहीं बढ़े. But once after the lag phase, once the organisms are attuned with the environment, with the physical environment, there is a exponential phase or the log phase. उसके बाद आ जाता है stationary phase, क्योंकि अब environment की carrying capacity कितना वो हमें carry कर सकती थी, जो अभी situation है planet की. Why do you think there are so many unpredictable things happening in terms of diseases, in terms of floods, in terms of rains, in terms of heat waves? Why do you think it's happening? Arpan, it's a huge chapter. It's a marathon class. अगर कुछ मिस हो गया है क्लास के बाद, go back, watch it again. ठीक है? Thank you, Dark Knight. Dark Knight, please put your real name. I really, if you keep giving correct answers, I would like to take your name in the class. कल्याण, उसमें carrying capacity को हम introduce नहीं कर रहे हैं. It is not a component there. वहाँ पे हम assume कर रहे हैं कल्याण, good question, कोई तो समझने की कोशिश कर रहा है. कल्याण, वहाँ पर ना we are assuming, English or Hindi, let me know, that resources are unlimited. Carrying capacity is when the resources are used up. It's all done. Somebody has said planet has reached its Fahim. What a beautiful name, Fahim. Let's put that name. Huh? Dark Knight क्यों नाम डालना है ना? Your original name is so beautiful. Okay. अच्छा, एक बात बताऊं, इकोलॉजी में नींद तो आएगी, मुझे भी आ रही है, मतलब मुझे नहीं आ रही है, एक्चुअली आ नहीं सकती. So whenever you feel sleepy, stand up and stretch, and if you drink coffee or tea, get it, because these classes are very very important. आज की क्लास से क्वेश्चन आने वाला है, and there should be some benefit ना, इतना शिद्दत से, like somebody said, I'm teaching you. यहीं से क्वेश्चन लेकर चले जाओ. If you're thinking there is a tomorrow, मैं कल देख लूंगा, मैं परसों देख लूंगा, मैं ये बुक खोल लूंगा, इसके बाद मैं ये क्लास अटेंड कर लूंगा. There's no tomorrow now in NEET preparation. That's it. Thank you, Shubhra. That's very motivating. राघवेंद्र ने बोला था let's go नींद. I understood the meaning. All right, people. मैं तुमसे बातें इसलिए कर रही थी because the two growth models are over. Very very. अच्छा, ecology में ना, I'm not going to say this is important, that is not important, this is very, एक एक वर्ड बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. सो जो एग्जामिनर के पास कम से कम 15 क्वेश्चन है, कम से कम, उसके पास लिबर्टी है ज्यादा क्वेश्चन देने की. सो 15 क्वेश्चंस, यानी कि हर एक लाइन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. और कुछ लोग अगर अभी भी ये गलत फहमी में है दैट यू नीड टू रीड एनीथिंग अदर देन एनसीईआरटी, डोंट ट्रबल योरसेल्फ, प्लीज बी योर ओन फ्रेंड एटलीस्ट. क्या हुआ? ओके, oh you can tell me. Cool people, लेट्स गो टू लाइफ हिस्ट्री वेरिएशन. छोटा सा प्यारा सा टॉपिक है एनसीईआरटी में, लाइफ हिस्ट्री वेरिएशन. कहना क्या चाहती है ना एनसीईआरटी, इट शोज दैट कोई भी पॉपुलेशन, निकिता, वेयर इज निकिता, यू वर द वन हु केम टू बैंगलोर टू स्टडी द पॉपुलेशन, राइट? हाँ, कोई भी पॉपुलेशन, कोई भी स्पीशीज ना कोई स्ट्रैटेजी बनाकर नहीं बैठती है दैट आई एम गोइंग टू डू दिस, दीज आर गोइंग टू बी माई हैबिट्स, या मैं ऐसे ही अडेप्ट करूंगी. ऑल द ऑर्गेनिजम्स आर अंडर द प्रेशर्स, वेरी नाइस वर्ड राइट नाउ, we are constantly under the pressure of other organisms as well as the pressure exerted by our physical environment. जैसे आज ही ना बैंगलोर में इतनी गर्मी कभी नहीं हुई है. बैंगलोर has a very nice weather. I was telling my mother just before the class, यार मेरा ना इस साल बैंगलोर में रहने का बिल्कुल, otherwise I love staying here. I chose to stay here. I brought my parents to stay here. I told her, I just feel like going up in the mountains and staying there for good 2-3 months. So we are constantly under these pressures, but I know that we have to survive. Yeah? So in order to survive, you've seen the adaptations. अब कुछ variations आती हैं species में in terms of breeding, reproductive methods. Okay? So reproductive strategies of a population in a long period of time, hundreds and hundreds of years, as it tries to survive and adapt to the environment by the imposed constraints of abiotic and biotic components. दूसरे organisms भी हैं मुझे परेशान करने वाले. Yeah? So the reproductive strategies can be, number one, breeding frequency in a particular lifetime. Secondly, number and the size of the offspring. For example, certain organisms choose to breed only once in lifetime. Because understand, every living organism which has come to this planet, I think मैं ये सब class में बोल रही हूँ, people who are regular to my class, the fitness is reproduction. Whether progenies are there, carrying my imprint, अमर होने के लिए. Okay? So, for example, salmon, fish and bamboo, which we discussed in the last class, bambusia, flowers only once in lifetime and then it dies. Certain organisms have adopted a reproductive strategy that we will reproduce multiple times in a lifetime so that we have a good count of our progenies. For example, birds, human beings, नश्वर रहने के लिए, carrying the family name. Then there are certain organisms which adopt a reproductive strategy. अच्छा, ये strategy क्यों हुई? इसका क्या हुआ? ये क्या हुआ? You don't have to do that. I'm just mentioning that it exists. At your level, in your syllabus, you just have to know that this kind of reproductive strategy is also employed by the individual because every organism is emphasizing on a good reproductive potential. क्योंकि रिप्रोडक्शन से ही कंटिन्यूटी ऑफ स्पीशीज होती है जो आपके दिमाग में भरा हुआ है. नाउ, oyster and pelagic fishes employ a method that we will produce small but large number of progenies. Other types of organisms, we talk about mammals, they produce huge organisms, less in number. So these are the different life history variations which happen over a long span of time. Ultimately organisms क्या कर रहे हैं वो मैंने आपको बता दिया है. किसी का भी ना वो सब्जेक्ट में घुसने वाला डाउट नहीं आ रहा है कि मैम मुझे तो इकोलॉजी रटनी नहीं है, ज्यादा से ज्यादा तुम लोग डेफिनेशंस बोल रहे हो. अब आ जाता है पॉपुलेशन इंटरेक्शंस, जो आज का सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक है. अगर एग्जामिनर ये भूल भी जाए कि ये चैप्टर एग्जिस्ट करता है तो भी पॉपुलेशन इंटरेक्शन में से हर साल 1 या 2 क्वेश्चंस आते ही आते हैं. Like I said, in a community, if you look at the ecological hierarchy, organism, मैं, मेरे जैसे बाकी, but what is the reality? Is it just us? No. We don't know right now. But you and I, interacting right now, are constantly interacting with unseen microorganisms. Now, we are the top level predators, people. हम लोग सबसे high level predators हैं. But think about a jungle. Think about other life forms जिनको खाने वाला predator कोई ना कोई बैठा है. Right? So, we are constantly interacting with other populations as well. मच्छर की population. Okay? Cockroach की population. जिसको देखकर एकदम से you scream out. Plants की population. Microorganisms की population. अभी 2 साल 1 साल में आपने देखा है कि कैसे ना दिखने वाला organism can bring a havoc in our life as well. So these interactions, interspecific interactions, that is interaction of population of 2 different species, can be beneficial, detrimental or neutral. It is just like जब आप अपने classroom पे होते हो, you are best friends with 1 or 2 people. Beneficial, okay? Detrimental, you don't like you certain people in the class, happens to everybody, you don't like them very much. And neutral is आपको फर्क नहीं पड़ता, they are just acquaintances. You know they are there, but you just don't care. So we are going to give a positive mark if the interaction is a good beneficial interaction, and negative if it is a negative for me, detrimental for me. Yeah? Now we are going to discuss extremely important aspects of every interaction. Ready, people? Ifat subha tak hai. I can live on water and go on. So लिख लो फटाफट म्यूचुअलिज्म. म्यूचुअलिज्म इसको ना कॉमन तरीके से समझते हैं, टेक्स्ट बुक को बंद कर देते हैं. म्यूचुअलिज्म इज बेस्ट फ्रेंड. You want to share everything with them. You want to share the session with them. You want to share everything very good and not so good in your life with your best friend. Both these organisms are best friends. And they are best friends because they benefit from each other. आज आप बोलोगे यार मैंने ना ecology की क्लास अटेंड की मैम के साथ. You'll share the session. Your friend will see the session. In turn, ऐसा नहीं है कि वो organism कुछ नहीं करेगा. Your friend will not do anything. They will share their notes with you. ये ले digestive system के notes. You know, I really worked hard on them and I revised from them. Have a peek. So positive interaction. इसके कई levels होते हैं. कुछ ऐसी फ्रेंडशिप्स भी हो जाती हैं, कुछ ऐसा म्यूचुअलिस्टिक रिलेशनशिप्स होते हैं जैसे कि प्लांट और पॉलिनेटर के बीच में, विच इज दैट दे कैन नॉट लिव विदाउट ईच अदर. इंटेंस प्यार. आई विल नॉट कंप्लीट माई लाइफ विदाउट यू. विल सी दैट, यू नो दैट. ओके, सिंपल एग्जाम्पल लेते हैं जो आपने क्लास 11th में लाइकेंस पढ़े हैं. फाइकोबायोंट, माइकोबायोंट, फंगल एंड एल्गल एसोसिएशन. फंगस कहती है मैं तेरे को सॉइल से एक्स्ट्रा न्यूट्रिएंट्स लेकर दूंगी. एल्गे बोलती है आई एम वेरी गुड एट प्रोड्यूसिंग कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स, आई नो माई जॉब, मैं तेरे को थोड़ा सा फूड दूंगी. अंडरस्टूड. माइकोराइजा, क्लास 11th, मैंने तो कुछ नया नहीं पढ़ाया. रूट्स ऑफ हायर प्लांट्स एंड फंगस. माइको मतलब फंगस, किंगडम माइकोटा. अब हायर प्लांट्स ने बोला हम आपको घर देंगे रहने के लिए, हम आपको खाना देंगे, whatever we make because we are good at that. You give us those special nutrients which you only can take out from the soil. With me on this. Plant और pollinator relationship ऐसा ecologists बोलते हैं. Vanshika, I would suggest that you go back and like pay attention to the class. You're asking doubts from the beginning of the class, which is distracting for other students. Okay, so people, plant और pollinator relationship ऐसा ecologist मानते हैं is an obligatory mutualism. I don't want to confuse you further, but obligatory word is familiar for everybody. ये जरूरी वाली friendship है. Because in the course of evolution, both the organisms as far as plant and pollinator is concerned co-evolve. And why are they co-evolving? मान लेते हैं, ऐसा बोलते हैं evolution मतलब change हो रहा है. अगर एक डिसाइड करता है कि मैं चेंज होऊंगा तो दूसरा भी चेंज होता है, so that their friendship never breaks and no third person comes. It is as simple as when I came to study in Bangalore, yeah, years and years and years back, 1,000 years back. My best friend, she was junior to me. She gave her entrance exam, I think 2 years after me. Although she was getting a college somewhere else, she decided to come to Bangalore only. So I changed the geographical location and she changed. Co-evolution. तो fig and wasp जिस तरह से एक ऐसा relationship बन गया है course of evolution में, that fig which is dependent on the wasp for pollination, yeah, wasp has evolved itself to be dependent on fig for its life cycle. कैसे? It lays its egg in the fig. That is called as oviposition. Wasp knows that my young ones will be protected only in the fig. Not only that, the wasp has co-evolved to tell the fig that you have to feed my larva. The larva will feed on the seeds which are present, which are developing in the plant. And only then, feeding on the fig, the larva will mature and they will come out. इस सारे process में वो उसको pollinate करता है. So when life cycles are intricately related, this is called as a obligatory mutualism seen in, accompanied by co-evolution, very important, seen in plant and pollinator relationship. अब इसी fact में एक गड़बड़ है. This is a गड़बड़ because ये कुछ ऐसी चीजें हैं nature में which people have not been able to conclude upon. Okay, this is still a matter of debate, but what is there in our syllabus is that orchid employs sexual deceit. Sexual deceit, झूठ बोलता है, and pseudo copulation happens in Mediterranean. Very important question. ये तो मतलब आ ही गया. Mediterranean orchid Ophrys. मैंने नहीं ऐड किया है, this is given in your textbook. This particular orchid species employs sexual deceit. अब plants में तो दिमाग है ही बहुत. इसने क्या किया? इसका pollinator है bee, कॉल्पा bee. Okay. In order to get pollinated, the petal of the flower, orchid ने अपने petal को female कॉल्पा bee जैसा बना लिया. The petal of the flower looks like a female bee. Size, color, उसकी body पे जो जो markings है, वो सारा उसने ऐसा कर लिया that the male bee gets attracted. Male bee किसी और flower से आ रहा है, pollen grains लेकर, it gets attracted to the female flower. लेकिन copulation, actual copulation doesn't happen. So pseudo copulation. अब आप कहोगे मैम ये mutualism तो नहीं हुआ. बी को क्या फायदा हुआ? This was a question of many people for a long time. Was my question as well. The answer is that ho na ho, they say, they put the theory that kuch bhi ho, the insect who's visiting a flower will always get some or the other reward. Because the flowers are made to give rewards. Nectar or food, anything. Yeah, so it is a kind of mutualism. Yeah, next kind of interaction is a very important interaction for the health of the ecosystem, which is predation. दिख तो आपको negative रहा है यहाँ पर, but ये negative sign actually बहुत ज़रूरी है. हर चीज़ जो देखने में negative लगती है is not necessarily negative. अगर हमारे predation is the most prevalent relationship in our ecosystem. अगर predation नहीं होगी हम नहीं रह पाएंगे. Even if we want to be selfish and think about ourselves, if predation doesn't exist, मान लो प्लांट्स को खाने वाले अगर हर्बीवोर्स जो उसके प्रेडेटर्स हैं ना होते तो इस दुनिया में इतने प्लांट्स हो जाते कि हमारे रहने के लिए जगह नहीं होती. अगर इंसेक्ट्स को खाने वाले एनिमल्स नहीं होते तो हम इतने इंसेक्ट्स हो जाते दैट वी वुडंट हैव बीन एबल टू बी present here, to be surviving. So predation is extremely important and it sets the tune of the food chain, the very idea of eating and being eaten. Is that clear? Now, the thing about predation, the certain key points about predation which can be confusing, and so I'm giving you the notes. Please write them down. Predators are conduits of energy across the trophic level. Across trophic levels. जो producers ने energy बनाई, जो plants के पास energy है, वो आगे मेरे तक कैसे आएगी? I'm the top level predator. When I eat plants or when herbivores eat plants and they are eaten by carnivores. So conduits means carrying the energy from one level to another level. Clear? Then predators keep the prey population in control. Prey population in control, like I told you. Too much of anything is bad. So eating lower organisms is essential. Predator usually बड़ा होता है, prey usually छोटा होता है. Usually. Is that clear? Third is they decrease the interspecific competition. Interspecific competition. हर वक्त कोई ना कोई दो स्पीशीज में अगर मैं देखूं तो एक स्पीशीज ज्यादा पावरफुल होती है, डोमिनेटिंग होती है. If I let that species dominate, then the inferior species will be extinct. यानी कि डाइवर्सिटी मेरे प्लैनेट पर आज इतनी सारी स्पीशीज क्यों प्रेजेंट है? How are inferior species able to survive? Because there is somebody there eating that superior species. So they reduce the interspecific competition. Fourth point which you can't miss at all is prudence. Predators are intelligent. They never overexploit their prey. इतना नहीं मारते that the prey becomes extinct. They'll not be like eat everything and finish them forever. They know that if I overexploit my prey, then I'll have no food tomorrow. Is that clear? So now certain organisms have evolved defense mechanism against predation. Different चीजें होती है, camouflage होता है, mimicry होता है, और plants start producing poisonous substances. Monarch butterfly is poisonous, is unpalatable, distasteful for the predator. Yeah? Then plants को बड़ा पसंद है that either they will modify themselves morphologically, अपने structure में कोई changes लाएंगे. For example, thorns of bougainvillea, thorns in citrus, so that herbivores do not graze them. Or they go a notch further and they start producing poisons. For example, calotropis. The example is given right here. Calotropis is a weed, but अगर इस पे कोई feed करता है तो it produces cardiac glycosides. It produces cardiac glycosides and there will be immediate death of the animal if they feed on. Shubhra, I would still say competition. Plasmodium वाला तो parasitic है. I'm coming to that. Plasmodium is parasitic. Okay? Not competition. So not competition, both will be not predation. It will be parasitism. And you will see the difference when I teach you parasitism. Good doubt. Okay. Now, आपको पता है नॉर्मली जो प्लांट्स निकोटीन बनाते हैं, लैटेक्स बनाते हैं, क्यूनिन द मेडिसिन, मलेरिया वाली मेडिसिन, those were actually in the course of evolution. इन plants ने सोचा यार बहुत हो गया, there are a lot of animals feeding on us, we'll produce these कड़वे and poisonous substances, nobody will come and feed us. Although today we use them commercially. So all these extracts are actually the chemical defenses in response to predation. Next is commensalism. What is commensalism? This is a type of interaction wherein you are helping somebody. कुछ लोग ऐसे होते हैं ना क्लास में, they will ask you for your notes, they'll keep missing the classes for some or the other reason. You're like, okay, fine, I'll help them. I don't really care. You're not my friend. But okay, if you ask for help, I'll help you. That is commensalism. उसको फायदा है, आपको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. ये बहुत ही easy interaction है. For example, barnacles at the back of a whale. उसके साथ swim करते जाते हैं, free ride and some food. और if you talk about the cattle egrets, egrets आपने ये देखा होगा. गाय के ऊपर या बफेलो के ऊपर ऐसे एग्रेट्स बैठे होते हैं. Why are they there? So that when the cattle grazes through the grasses, उसको थोड़ा बहुत insects मिल जाएंगे, खाना मिल जाएगा. But cattle को पता ही नहीं है, खबर ही नहीं है, फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता, right? Very classic example and an important question is sea anemone and clownfish. Sea anemone के पास tentacles हैं, toxins produce करने वाले. Okay? So now stinging tentacles हैं, I'm sorry, stinging tentacles हैं. Clownfish के बहुत predators हैं. So clownfish goes and hides itself in the stinging tentacles, thereby getting protection. और sea anemone को कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. One of the interactions which is missing in NCERT but an important previous year question is amensalism. Amensalism is the other way around. Somebody steals your notes. नोटबुक चोरी हो गई, आप पर नेगेटिव असर हुआ, उसको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ा, उसको पढ़ना नहीं था जाके, बस आपको परेशान करना था. दैट इज अमेंसिलिज्म. सो मेरा जो इसमें फेवरेट क्वेश्चन है, मेरा नहीं है, द फेवरेट क्वेश्चन इज रोल ऑफ एंटीबायोटिक्स. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ यू टॉक अबाउट पेनिसिलियम फंगस, या द फंगस हैज नो क्लू, but it produces penicillin which kills the streptococcus bacteria. Amensalism. Or there is black walnut tree called as juglans, which does not allow apple tree to grow near it by producing a chemical called juglon. तो usually amensalism में ना एक organism को कोई खबर नहीं होती and it is producing certain substances which harm the other organisms. With me on this? Clear? ये बहुत important है. Now comes the most important interaction, which is competition. I'm going to explain you in my own way because it's a little confusing in the textbook. Predation, Shubhra. Okay? Now competition is when the fitness of a species or R, that is the rate of intrinsic increase, is lowered, is affected in the presence of other species. किसी और की वजह से my fitness, survival as well as the reproductive potential, when it is affected, that is called as competition. Alright. Now competition can happen between related as well as unrelated species. It can happen whether the resources are limiting or they are non-limiting. Earlier people said कि नहीं competition तो सिर्फ closely related, जैसे Gauss very important contribution in understanding competition. He said नहीं, competition सिर्फ तभी होता है जब species are closely related, they are competing for the limited resources. Okay, species are closely related and they are competing for limited resources because he did his experiment in a laboratory. Laboratory mein it was true, but nature mein it is not true, and we will see the examples of that. With me? Now what Gauss did, very important question, he grew same related species of Paramecium. One was Cadadium and one was Aurelia. दोनों को same nutrient medium दिया. जब उसने अलग अलग Cadadium और Aurelia को grow किया, both were happy, growing at the same rates. But when he put them together, Aurelia and Cadadium, again the resources are limited, species are related, and what did he see? Aurelia multiplied more and excluded Cadadium. उसने बोला कि भाई अगर दो related species हैं, nutrient limited resources हैं, तो एक ही जीतेगी. That is competition. नीट के competition में कुछ ही लोग जीतेंगे, बाकी they will be excluded. That is just one example to reinforce what he said. Let's say that he was right. All right, but that is not true in nature. One such example was कि in South American lakes, yeah, two unrelated species, one was flamingos, the other were the fishes in the lakes, no connection, non-related species, but they were competing for the zooplankton, which is the same resource. So it means that वो वाली बात गॉस की गलत थी. They can be distant species. Second example, resources का limited होना जरूरी नहीं है. In Galapagos Island, Abingdon tortoise became extinct when goats were introduced onto the island. Both are herbivores, लेकिन goats are better herbivores. Their feeding capacity is better, and that is why tortoise extinct हो गया within 10 years, within a decade. तो जरूरी नहीं है कि resources limited हो. Resources can be unlimited also. This is an example of interference competition. Interference competition, wherein one particular species will affect the feeding capacity of another species. Feeding capacity of another species. उसके बाद Connell did an experiment. This is called as Connell's experiment. Very, very important, and it tells us a new color of competition. What is the new color of competition? Connell ने बोला, he actually did that experiment in the intertidal regions of Scotland, and he said कि there are two barnacles. One is Balinus and the other one is the Chithalamus. Okay, he said इन दोनों को अगर साथ में रखोगे, Balinus will win. But if I remove Balinus, then Chithalamus also increases like anything. This is called as competitive release. What is competitive release? Very important question. It says कि if the distribution of a species is restricted to a small area because उसको कोई बड़ा नहीं होने दे रहा है due to a superior species, then you can improve the distributional range if you experimentally remove the superior species. Another concept given in competition by Mr. MacArthur was कि ज़रूरी नहीं है, he told Gauss's exclusion principle is not entirely correct. There can be coexistence also. Species might not always agree to keep fighting क्योंकि एक हारेगा. What they do is they develop alternate mechanisms to live together. And he studied 5 different types of warbler species who were living on the same tree. He said, how are they living on the same tree? They are fighting for the same resources because now they are not really fighting. They have developed alternate foraging patterns, different times of feeding, different types of food, different levels on the tree to live. So this is called as partitioning the same resource and not fighting for it. a friendly way to coexist. Last but not the least is a very important parasitism. Parasitism तो negative interaction है. There is a certain organism much smaller who decides to live at the expense of another organism called as the host. अब इस host के ये पीछे पड़ जाता है and उसको नुकसान करता है. It is very harmful for the host. It can impact the host in a number of ways. Yeah. अब इसमें some parasites live outside the body, ectoparasites, for example, lices and ticks, Cuscuta, Amarbeil, and some live inside the body. ये जो endoparasites है ना, Plasmodium की कोई बात कर रहा था, it is an endoparasite. They have a complex life cycle and multiple hosts. और ये मस्त divide करते हैं. Their reproductive potential is huge. You have studied the life cycle of malaria in class 12th. Yeah. So ectoparasite is this. Endoparasites के लिए याद रखना. This is a question. Example is liver fluke. Liver fluke में भी आपको intermediate hosts मिलते हैं. I think it is the snail and the fish, if I'm not wrong. Those are the intermediate hosts. Plasmodium का आपको पता है, human and the female Anopheles mosquito. So they really emphasize on their reproductive potential and they have excellent, that is common for all the parasites, excellent adhesive organs. कोई भी parasite की success is dependent on कितना अंदर घुस गए हैं body में. How adherent, how closely related they are to the host tissue. And excellent reproductive potential. कि भाई कुछ भी कर लो, medicines ले लो, मार दो, मैं इतना बढ़ जाऊंगा that you will never be able to completely eradicate me. अच्छा इसमें भी ना, if the host develops कोई method कि यार I want to get rid of this parasite, I'll do this, I'll do that, कोई भी अगर वो mechanism choose करेगा तो parasite अपने आप को फटाफट बदल लेता है. To make sure कि मैं तो I'll continue to be there. Is that clear, people? Brood parasitism is not a true parasitism. Actually, brood parasitism में one of the birds fools the another bird, hence called brood, comes from brooding. The bird lays its eggs in the nest of another bird. And how does it do? वो अपना जो egg है, जैसे this is cuckoo's egg in the crow's nest. Crow और cuckoo का जो relationship है, that is brood parasitism, quail and crow. तो वो अपने eggs को इस तरह से change करती है that it resembles the host's egg और जाके उसके nest में रख देती है. उसको पता है, host doesn't have a clue. Yeah, and cuckoo is happy. The egg incubates there. Yeah. Lastly, what we studied today. Yeah, we started with understanding that there is a hierarchy of ecology. Yeah, in the hierarchy, we also understood that an organism has to face the abiotic as well as the biotic factors. Abiotic factors में हमने important abiotic factors discuss किए, जिसमें सबसे important आता है temperature. Then, in terms of response to abiotic factors, we discussed. ज़्यादा लंबी हो गई class, actors. Response to abiotic factors में we saw the different mechanisms, different behaviors: suspend, confirm, regulate, and migrate. Then we moved on to the population part. Population attributes हमने देखे, birth rate, death rate, sex ratio, age pyramid. We also saw the different population interactions just now. In the middle of the session, we saw population growth is affected by different parameters, which is natality, immigration, mortality, and emigration. Very important topic today that you saw are the two graphs signifying the two growth models, which is exponential or the geometric growth and the logistic growth. चैप्टर बहुत 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 इंपॉर्टेंट है, रिवाइज करना, दोबारा से देखना एंड focus on your NCERT textbook. I'll take your leave now. Go have your food if you haven't had and keep working hard. I'll see you in the next class with a Menti quiz on the same chapter.